Let's go. How is it going, everybody? We got a ton of news today that we have to cover. We got some news about the Raiders, news about the New York Jets, news about the New England Patriots, and a former Raider, Josh McDaniels. So we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff today, but just wanted to hang out and go live and talk to the rest of the chat and see how you're feeling, what you're thinking about this crazy NFL offseason, man. It is just nonstop update. This guy's going here. Oh, scratch that. This guy's going here. But at least today, we do have some movement and we do actually have some concrete things that have happened. Now, I did not go live over the weekend. I was watching the playoff games as well. I thought about going live at night, got sidetracked with some other work. That may change this upcoming week, or some videos breaking down these playoff games. But when it comes to the result of some of these games, it was not too shocking. So just so we all know, the Bills are facing the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game this weekend. And then you also have the Commanders facing the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, the big surprise that happened over the past weekend was the Detroit Lions going one and done after having that first round #1 seed bye. And losing to the Commanders. And it was a tough game. I still thought the Lions were going to pull it out at any moment. I was even thinking like, man, I would put some Skrilla on the Lions for an underdog when they were down multiple touchdowns against the Washington Commanders. Good thing I did not do that, because I would have lost and the Detroit Lions were knocked out. Now, a lot of people think, did the Lions lose because of the fact that their two coordinators, Aaron Glenn, who we'll talk about later, and also Ben Johnson, were too busy thinking about what kind of job they may get in the future, interviewing for some of these different NFL jobs? Did that affect their ability to coach in these playoff games? I think the NFL maybe should think about creating some type of rule where you are not allowed to interview if your team is still in the playoffs. I think people need to wait till after the Super Bowl, man. I think it creates too many problems. You see Cliff Kingsbury with the Commanders, the offensive coordinator. He has said, even though he has had interview requests, that he's not going to interview with any team for a head coaching job until the Commanders are knocked out of the playoffs or they win the Super Bowl. Clearly, that was the right move, because the Commanders are winning and look like a more prepared, pumped up team than the Detroit Lions, despite the fact that the Lions have so many weapons. I know they got injuries, but they still have weapons all over. So that was a big deal. Eagles, I don't think anybody was surprised that the Eagles beat the Rams. It was closer than we thought it was going to be. And I thought that was exciting. I thought it was exciting to see Sean McVay and the Rams compete against a loaded roster like the Eagles. And I think that just shows when you have the quarterback situation, when you have the head coach who's an offensive-minded head coach calling the plays, you can sort of strategize and find yourself in a game against a team that is supposed to beat you and is way better than you. So I think that was very impressive by the LA Rams over this past weekend. I'm curious to see what's going to happen with Matthew Stafford in the future. Is he going to continue playing? That dude's like 36 years old, gets banged up every year. And there was a moment when he got banged up against the Eagles this past week, Matthew Stafford, and I started thinking, who could we maybe see fill in if Stafford can't go? And it almost happened, but it didn't. I thought Jimmy Garoppolo, who is the backup of the LA Rams, was going to get some reps. And I was hoping, because I just like a really good story, I was hoping that the Rams would beat the Eagles, but Matthew Stafford maybe is banged up, can't finish out the game. And so Jimmy Garoppolo leads a game-winning drive for the LA Rams and beats the Eagles. That was the story that I was hoping for. Let me know if you feel me on that. I thought that would have been absolutely hilarious. And when it comes to Chiefs versus Texans, there's suspect officiating. That was a huge story. We're going to actually talk about that later on too, and talk about some things that Patrick Mahomes has said recently about that. Shout out to everybody hanging out here, man. Support the show. You guys already know. We're going to talk about all these stories. Let me know what you want to see more from my channel. I am so, I'm just I'm a sponge. I just soak up and just take inspiration from anything, any little comment. So, and I can tell if you're malicious or if you're nice. And so if you're a well-intended individual, give me some feedback. Tell me what you like about the show. Tell me what you don't like about the show. And as you can tell, man, I've been doing this YouTube thing for a few years, and I'm getting a little gray in certain areas. I got some gray sideburns here. I want to know in the chat, when did you, maybe you don't have grays. We do have younger audiences here. I got young audiences. I got really young audiences, college audience, and I also have some older people too. Let me know when your grays started coming in. What age did your gray hairs on the sideburns start coming in? Or if you were still a young individual, maybe you don't have any gray hairs. Let me know. Let's get the chat going and let's get some conversation going about that before we get into all these NFL stories. Also, hey, if you do have gray hair, it's not the end of the world. You could end up looking great still. I was even thinking, man, if I start getting more gray hair on the sides, I could look like a hot Jimmy Garoppolo, man. Remember Jimmy Garoppolo? When he was signed by the Raiders, the gray hairs really started coming in, and he got a little bit of gaps here as well. But Jimmy Garoppolo is still, by most ladies, he is your mom and your sister's favorite quarterback still. Even though he's a backup, he is your mom and sister's favorite quarterback. And if he's able to get the ladies, then bring on the grays, man. Give me the grays. I'm trying to look like Jimmy G. I'll basically look like Jimmy G if I got some grays, right? That's how it works? Is that how it works? So we're going to get into all that. But first, I wanted to talk about one thing. I wanted to talk about the sponsor of this live stream today, Underdog Fantasy. Underdog is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. It's also the fastest growing app in the industry. I like playing. I'm going to play it this weekend. Their pick'em game where you can pick your favorite players around the league and guess whether they'll have a higher or lower stat total in this week's game. Jaden Daniels, I'm saying higher on that 224 passing yards against the Philadelphia football team. But what's great about Underdog is you can win up to 1,000 times your money in one night by picking your favorite players' higher or lower stat totals. And I honestly like to do this with a game that I'm not invested in. My favorite team's knocked out of the playoffs. This could make games spicy for me. That's what I like to do. Sign up with promo code Wi-Fi to claim your free pick, plus get a free first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. So sign up with promo code Wi-Fi, claim your free pick. The link is in the pinned comment and description below, and you will get a free pick and a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com. Find the app in the Google or Apple Play Store, and remember to play it responsibly, everybody. What are you waiting for, man? Check out Underdog right now. Use that promo code Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi. Just remember when you sign up, Wi-Fi. And I'm going to definitely be looking at this week's game, especially when it comes to the Washington versus Philly and Kansas City versus Buffalo, baby. It is going to be lit. So make sure you play it safe. Now, I do want to talk about some things. Not Jimmy Garoppolo. We don't need to talk about Jimmy Garoppolo. And we got some people talking about, speaking of the chat, I just want to hear more what you guys are saying before we get into some of these stories. We see people talking about John Spytek, people talking about Brady. What else do we got here? People talking about their grays started at age 50. That's lucky if your gray hair started at age 50. I mean, me and Jimmy Garoppolo, we're starting in our in the 3-0. Relationship turned stalker. Somebody has a stalker. Somebody says they're gray at 13. People talking about Gruden coming back. Oh, we all want John Gruden, but the NFL won't let us have John Gruden. Mike McCarthy. Mid-30s. I think mid-30s is the average for the Grays. For sure. Ladies love the gray. All right, so the Las Vegas Raiders are going through tons of changes. They've made some huge decisions recently after firing head coach Antonio Pierce and the general manager Tom Telesco. And breaking news, the Raiders decided to hire the former Buccaneers assistant GM John Spytek as their new general manager. This happened after some teams around the NFL have already hired their head coach. What does this mean for the Raiders, and what direction are they going to go in when it comes to head coach and quarterback? That's the most important thing when it comes to what the Raiders are going to do. Why did they choose Spytek? Spytek is an old college teammate in Michigan with Tom Brady. We know Tom Brady is going to have a significant say in what the Raiders organization is going to do going forward. So John Spytek linking up with Brady just shows that Brady's going to have his hands all over this team and decide what's going to happen in the future. Now, John Spytek did win a Super Bowl as the assistant GM and also president of football operations with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when Brady was there and got that ring, beating Patty Mahomes in the Super Bowl. So he's had some recent success. The Buccaneers have had a good roster, and with Brady, they were able to find a way to go on a playoff run. They had a really good squad out there. AB, Antonio Brown, was your number 3 wide receiver. We know you lost him eventually, but that's got to be impressive stuff. Now, Raiders fans face the biggest blue balls in the world. Everybody around the world, all the NFL insiders were saying that the Raiders were going to grab Ben Johnson. Everybody was saying that the Raiders were in line to get Ben Johnson because he loves Tom Brady. This is definitely going to happen any moment. You even had Adam Pac-Man Jones, former host and NFL player on the Pat McAfee show, saying that this is for sure going to happen.
Because sources says that Ben Johnson is going to be the Raiders coach.
Okay.
Like real good sources. Like I'm talking about like real good sources, as we shall say. I don't think Deion is going nowhere. I think it was good entertainment.
Okay.
So the context was whether or not Deion Sanders was going to go to the Raiders, and Adam Pac-Man Jones was saying he's not going to go to the Raiders because sources believe that Ben Johnson is definitely going to be the Raiders head coach. That ended up being completely false, as Ben Johnson. Well, let's actually see some more. It wasn't just Adam Pac-Man Jones. It was actually official people. Ian Rappaport. You had Jonathan Jones of CBS talking about the Raiders landing Ben Johnson as well.
The Raiders, they're going to make a big push in the coming days to land Ben Johnson. Mark Davis ceded this to Tom Brady. He said, hey, I've done things one way, and now I have the GOAT. You got Brady, Davis, and 3 other billionaire part owners who have been doing these searches. Now, Brady has his eyes on John Spytek to be his GM, and some wonder if he'll go with someone familiar with Johnson at GM to make sure he lands the coach. Johnson's going to decide tonight and into tomorrow.
So all of this ended up being smoke. All of this did not end up being true, as Ben Johnson, as of yesterday on Tuesday, January 21st, became the Chicago Bears head coach to coach Caleb Williams. Now, to be fair to the Raiders, a lot of NFL insiders were surprised about this. They thought that the Raiders seriously had Ben Johnson in the bag, and there were some conversations with Brady that seemed positive. Now it turns out Ben Johnson likely used the Raiders for leverage, probably was never intending to go to the Raiders, was always going to go to the Chicago Bears because of their quarterback situation. So the Raiders got fleeced. Raiders fans got blue balls. They thought they were going to attract the hottest head coaching candidate in probably the past 5 years, but instead they were left empty-handed. Tom Brady is helping to make some of these decisions for the Raiders, and he talked about it on the Colin Cowherd show.
I really hope other players get former. Right now, there's a great ownership group. There's other great people involved. I'm one voice. It's so collaborative, but I think this process of learning is so important. So that's kind of where it's at.
All right, not the greatest speaker. Tom Brady did good at QB, right, with Bill Belichick and referees helping him out, but he is not a good public speaker. Yikes, man. And we see some pretty talented people in media. That is pretty boring. But the big nugget that he said there is he's trying to say it's not all him. It's not all me. It's a collaborative process with other people. Now, what will these people do? John Spytek, the general manager, has officially been hired today. What direction will the Raiders go in for head coach? And that will also indicate what they're going to do at the quarterback position, which is still wide open. They got nothing there, and that's part of the reason why they did not land somebody like Ben Johnson. Now, the Raiders have interviewed a lot of head coaches around the NFL. So some of the coaches that the Raiders have interviewed was Ben Johnson, who ended up being hired by the Bears, Vance Joseph, former Broncos head coach and now defensive coordinator, and also Robert Saleh, the former Jets head coach. Aaron Glenn has been signed by the New York Jets to be their head coach. Raiders interviewed him. But two familiar faces, Ron Rivera, former Commanders and Panthers head coach, along with Pete Carroll, former Seahawks head coach. The Raiders have interviewed both of these guys in addition to Joseph and Saleh, and they're also set to interview Steve Spagnuolo of the Kansas City Chiefs and Todd Monken, the Ravens offensive coordinator. These may have been completed by now. I don't think so, but that's basically your list. Steve Spags, Ravens offensive coordinator Monken, and also Pete Carroll and Ron Rivera and Saleh, some familiar faces there along with Vance Joseph. These are some pretty interesting candidates, and now the Raiders are going to be picking amongst these people, and perhaps a surprise candidate can come out of nowhere. You know that these things and these people always talk behind the scenes. You never know exactly what's going to happen there. Now, a lot of people believe that Pete Carroll is going to be the Raiders head coach. A lot of people believe that he's the favorite now. Raiders are targeting former Seahawks coach Pete Carroll, who is 74 years old. Now, I will say he's a healthy 74. I really hope I look like this guy when I'm 74. But after missing out on Ben Johnson, you got CBS believing that they could be landing Pete Carroll here. Even The Athletic has said that Pete Carroll is the top target for the Raiders head coaching vacancy. Now, that to me seems cool, seems nice, but it doesn't sound like a long-term plan. This sounds like Antonio Pierce. Now, I have been critical of the Antonio Pierce hire, but if you're not going to attract a big-time candidate who's going to be here for a long time, and now the Raiders are set to maybe just recruit another bridge head coach who's probably only going to be here, he's 74. Let's be real, man. 2 years? Right? I mean, is he really going to be like an 80-year-old head coach? I don't see that happening. But there's one thing that I do like about the potential of Pete Carroll becoming the Raiders head coach, which is now going absolutely wild. Many people believe Pete Carroll is going to be the guy now that the Raiders cannot land the former Lions offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson. One interesting angle here, and this has to do with quarterback. This has to do with if you just need a bridge, if you're just going to say, you know what, let's try to shock the world a little bit in these next 2 years. We're going to be underdogs. We're not going to find a franchise guy. We're not going to find a head coach who's going to be here for 10 years. Let's just try to shock the world with some people who have some experience. Raiders could go in this direction if they go with Pete Carroll, which the whole NFL media machine said they were grabbing Ben Johnson. They were wrong. Now the NFL media machine is saying that the Raiders are going to grab Pete Carroll. That's probably going to be wrong too, but let's just take it at face value. If they go in this direction, maybe they bring on a guy who had a pretty good, surprising year out there in Pittsburgh, Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is set to be a free agent in 2025. He's on a 1-year contract with the Seattle Seahawks. By the way, the Broncos are still paying his salary from that massive contract that they gave Russell Wilson when they signed him in 2022, and they'll be paying his salary still for 2025. So the Raiders could pay Russell Wilson a veteran minimum, just like the Steelers did this past year, while the Broncos pay the rest of the tab. That could be very exciting, and this guy could take advantage of some of the solid weapons that the Raiders have, and especially if they can add some pieces, and it still gives you an option to draft a quarterback to be mentored by somebody like Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson was asked about Pete Carroll today on the Pat McAfee show, and this is when we have reports that Pete Carroll could be grabbing the Raiders head coaching job. Let's take a look at what Russell Wilson had to say.
You talked about, what were you, fourth round? Was it third or fourth round?
Oh, third round.
Third rounder, okay, but they had just signed Matt Flynn, I think, to a massive deal over there in Seattle. And you talk about defying odds and everything like that. You weren't supposed to be the starter, but I think it was halfway through training camp maybe where Pete Carroll came out and was like, hey, we really like Russell Wilson. You and Pete kind of together seemingly echoed the same exact sentiments. His name is now being floated back into head coaching cycles. People are saying potentially Las Vegas Raiders for Pete Carroll. What was it like?
So this is how huge this is becoming. Pat McAfee show today. I didn't even see this before I started talking with you guys. This is how huge this is getting. It's just out there. NFL Media Machine is now saying Raiders grabbing Pete Carroll. They're wrong about the Ben Johnson. Will they be right about the Pete Carroll here?
Like working with Pete, how would you describe your relationship with Pete? And have you caught up with him since you have left Seattle Seahawks?
Yeah, my rookie year, was an amazing moment just because, kind of going in there, and I was third string quarterback at the time, and just, I just kept my head down and just kept working. I think that, I think the first preseason game we played against the Tennessee Titans, I remember throwing a touchdown, I think Braylon Edwards, and I ran when my guy Charlie Martin made an unbelievable block, and I ran up for a 50-yard touchdown, dove from the end zone. That was kind of my first, okay, and then the second game, I think we played in Denver, played well there, and then the third game I got the start against the Chiefs and threw a few touchdowns there, and so it was just okay, here we go. And it was, I had such great players around me. I had such great guys that were competitors, and you think about just the players that we had. And so I thought Coach Carroll did a tremendous job of leading us and, pushing us every day to be our best back then. And I think us players wanted it. We wanted that level of work and attention and that kind of defying the odds in a way. And so, listen, I think Pete's an amazing football coach. I think he's an amazing individual. I've been fortunate to play for two really special coaches in terms of men and how they think and how they process the game. Obviously, and Coach Pete Carroll and obviously Coach Mike Tomlin are really unique individuals and how they lead and motivate. I think they're
Wait a second. Russell Wilson left off Sean Payton and also Nathaniel Hackett. Hey, come on, Russ. You can't leave off some of your other head coaches. You're only going to shout out Pete Carroll and Mike Tomlin. What about Nathaniel Hackett and the great Sean Payton?
culture builders. And so, I think Pete will, do a great job wherever he goes. I'm not sure exactly where he's looking or whatever, but if he gets the opportunity, I know he'll do a great job. And, we've always stayed in touch. I went to see him in a lot of the other guys, Bobby and the guys like Doug Baldwin and DK Metcalf and all that, and Sherman, all those guys. When Coach Carroll got let go from Seattle, we spent a lot of time there, and we flew back in and just spent a lot of time with him, and just we have memories. And I said, it's funny because I said, if Sherman and I could be in the same room, it's always a good thing,
Yes, yeah, I would imagine.
That's but we were just.
I love Russell Wilson's fake laugh. If Sherman and I could ever be in the same room, it's a good thing.
Sherman and I could be in the same room, it's always a good thing. Spent a lot of time with him, and just we have memories. And I said, it's funny because I said, if Sherman and I could be in the same room, it's always a good thing,
Yes, yeah, I would imagine.
That's we were just all competitors, man. We love playing ball, we love winning, we love pushing it, and I think Pete always did a good job of that.
I'm happy to hear that you guys.
So Russell Wilson reacting to the Pete Carroll rumors. Could he be joining the Las Vegas Raiders? What's interesting is he talked about when Pete Carroll got let go and they had a little reunion, and that's what he was referencing there. When Pete Carroll did get let go, and we heard there were reports in the background that maybe Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson weren't on good terms, but it seems like this sort of squashed that. So a lot of players got together when Pete Carroll was let go. by the Seattle Seahawks. And Russell Wilson, who many people did not know if he was going to show up, he ended up showing up. You see him there right next to Bobby Wagner, Richard Sherman behind Pete Carroll there in the middle. And he got another list of Seattle Seahawks players there. They're all hanging out, having some beers and having some wine and celebrating his career. So they still have a great relationship. A lot of people thought because Pete Carroll, him and Russell Wilson had a split, Russ essentially left to Denver, and Pete Carroll was very complimentary towards Geno Smith and made some comments about how we used to have people who were resistant to wearing a wristband with all the plays. We don't have that problem now. And people in the media thought, hey, is Pete Carroll kind of throwing shade at Russell Wilson? Is that what's happening? But then once Pete Carroll was let go, you see the reunion there. These guys still have a positive relationship. I was very curious, what do Seahawks fans think about Pete Carroll still? I know some Seahawks fans, but I'm always curious about what former teams think about certain coaches, especially when they're on the market. And you got Pete Carroll to the Raiders, people talking about this on the Seahawks subreddit, and they're talking about Pete Carroll and saying some positive things about him and some negative things. If anyone could fix the franchise, it'd be Tom Brady and Pete Carroll when they're talking about the Raiders there. So still speaking highly of Pete Carroll, even though the dude is 74 years old. And Pete can do what he wants, and I hope he has success with that team, except when playing the Seahawks. Pete is a fine coach, and most organizations would be lucky to have him. I hope for his sake he goes somewhere better, but the Raiders certainly can do and have done worse. Look, dude, Pete Carroll would be lucky not only to coach the Raiders, but to coach any team. He'd be lucky to coach the Panthers. He'd be lucky to coach the Browns. He'd be lucky to coach... I'm not gonna say anything too mean, but the dude is 74 years old. Bill Belichick is 74 years old. People are passing on Bill Belichick. Age is an issue, and it's not like Pete Carroll is a hot commodity here. So I know that some of these Seahawks fans think highly of Pete Carroll, but he'd be very lucky and very grateful to get the Raiders job. And maybe that's what the Raiders need as they try to reshuffle and get some better talent on their football team and essentially rebuild their football team. Pete Carroll and Harbaugh in the same division would be fun. That would be pretty funny. But I do still think, even though you get Pete Carroll and he's won a Super Bowl before, I do believe he is still the worst head coach in the AFC West if you do grab him. When it comes to, Harbaugh, Peyton, and Andy Reid, also you don't have as much longevity. So he doesn't have as high of a ceiling as Sean Payton, Jim Harbaugh, and Andy Reid. Would love to see him get another gig, hopefully in the AFC, so we don't have to face him. But the Raiders are a total mess. The Raiders are better than the Bears. I still don't think it's the right place for him. Either way, these people think really highly of Pete Carroll. I think they think a little too highly, where they're just acting like his shit don't stink and he is way too good to be the Raiders head coach. But I don't know how much impact Pete Carroll had in the front office. But grabbing Russell Wilson as a day 2 pick and him becoming your starting quarterback, that's very impressive. Recognizing that Geno Smith was serviceable enough to be a starting quarterback, I believe that's very impressive too. So I do think Pete Carroll could be really good in helping identify some talent, at least for a bridge for the next few years. The Raiders do have some pieces to work with here. Not a ton, but Spytek, former Buccaneers assistant GM, is officially hired. And the Raiders have some moves to make. You got some pieces. Brock Bowers, generational talent at tight end. Jacoby Myers, solid number 1 wide receiver. And you also have Christian Wilkins, number 1 defensive tackle. Max Crosby, edge, who has no guarantees left on his contract and is saying that there needs to be some conversations this offseason. Max Crosby, does he want out? He's talking a little risque here, man. He's not afraid to say his opinion that he's thinking about the future. Number 6 pick in the NFL draft. A quarterback could easily fall to you there. A Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. Maybe Shedeur Sanders doesn't get out of the top 4, but a QB could fall to you there. I would just sit there. And you got $107 million in cap space. I'm not saying to spend all that money on Sam Darnold, but if there's a dude that the head coach really believes in at quarterback position, obviously any position, you have the cap to compete. So they do need a quarterback, do need a running back. I believe they need to get somebody in the secondary. They need to resign some players in the secondary as well. But you got some stuff to work with besides, honestly, unfortunately, the 2 most important positions. Running back has now become One of the most important positions in the entire NFL was not originally, but should be interesting to see. And I think we could see, and I really do believe. I mean, Russell Wilson, I don't think he's going to be getting the opportunity with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be moving forward with Justin Fields if they bring back any of the quarterbacks they had on the roster this past year. Russell Wilson does want to play, will be looking for a job. He's being asked about Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll's getting the opportunity with the Raiders. Maybe he has interviewed with them, and there does seem to be some mutual interest there and some reporters saying this could happen. I could see Russell Wilson suiting up in Vegas finally with Ciara and head coach Pete Carroll. Yes, let's do it. You guys ready for this? The new Vegas Raiders in 2025. Watch out, Mahomes. Watch out, Justin Herbert. Watch out. Watch out, Sean Payton. And honestly, with how well the defense played last year, maybe that's enough. Maybe that's enough. Use a first-round pick on a running back. Maybe that's enough. Who knows? Yep, except the two most important positions in the entire NFL. Now we know that Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, they have totally proven, like, running back, that's looking like the only position that matters. Look at the Bears with DeAndre Swift. Look how that was a signing where it's like, it's okay. Not nearly as dominant when you spend money on Derrick Henry, when you spend money on Saquon Barkley, when you spend money on Josh Jacobs. That extra $5 million makes a huge difference. We have now learned maybe why all the legendary players are running backs, maybe that actually made sense. So it should be interesting to see what happens, man. Shout out to everybody hanging out in the chat right now. We got news coming out like crazy right now. And I got some stuff that I want to talk about. One sec. Get your water, everybody. Gotta get that voice warmed up again. That's my vocal warm up. Thirsty much, man. You know what? See, this is me just trying to make sure people stay healthy. I'm trying to spread the good word here and get everybody all nice and healthy. So there's a couple things that I want to talk about. There's a lot of news, and I think this impacts several teams around the NFL. But the New York Jets, I think, are about to fool everybody in the NFL. The New York Jets are in the news again. Remember, towards the end of the season, it was speculated by all the top NFL insiders and Jets reporters that Aaron Rodgers is completely done in New York. The Davante Adams trade was for no reason, and the Aaron Rodgers chapter will close. Remember, they were all saying that.
Turn to the Jets. Those conversations will have to be a long shot to return option bonus if they decide to bring him back. And my understanding is Rodgers is considered right now to be a long shot to return to the Jets. Those conversations will happen with the new power brokers after the.
So he was considered a long shot to be with the Jets. You had negative reports about Aaron Rodgers and the Jets kind of throwing him under the bus, in my opinion. I made a long video about this, and you had multiple Jets reporters saying that it's the end of the Rodgers era. Aaron Rodgers would be axed next.
I find it more and more difficult to believe that Aaron Rodgers is going to be the quarterback of the New York Jets at age 41 in 2025.
It's very clear now that this organization is also going to want to find a new quarterback as well. That the Aaron Rodgers season tenure with the Jets is going to be over.
There is a world where he's not a Jet next year.
Mm-hmm.
Have you two, how many times have you two talked about the future of Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams?
The most damning report was by none other than Diana Rossini, you had this crazy one,
exclusive information about the Jets owner Woody Johnson and his
bombshell ESPN
according
report,
to Diana Rossini and her sources,
where basically, let me just find the thing here. The bombshell report happened with Diana Rossini in The Athletic, where Woody Johnson suggested that they bench Aaron Rodgers in favor of Tyrod Taylor. This is like after the loss against the Denver Broncos. I would say week 6. It was right before they fired Robert Saleh in the middle of the season. So it just seemed like, all right, there's no way Aaron Rodgers is going to be on the Jets roster. What's going to happen with Devontae, all that stuff. It just seemed like it was completely done at this point. And you even had the reports about the Jets owner, Woody Johnson, that his Gen Z son, Brick, runs the team. So he has a Gen Z son who essentially listens to the internet and makes football decisions, and it has an impact on the team. You had these reports come out. Oh, dude, I missed that part. And then you had Aaron Rodgers respond to all this, and it was like, it was super hilarious. Let me find it. Oh, here we go.
Ty actually has
Jeff.
Yeah, Aaron, just curious.
No, not Coach Brick.
No, yeah. Owner
Brick.
Owner
GM Brick. Head Coach Brick.
Yeah.
That's who we're talking
So they're making fun of the Gen Z son of owner Woody Johnson, Brick.
Encompassing Brick, really.
With that being said.
And then they asked Rodgers about being released. If he's going to be released. We got all these reports that he's going to be released. You got a Gen Z person, Gen Z kid running the team.
Yeah, Aaron, just curious.
Listen,
Obviously,
first time, just to answer that, first time for everything. There's been a few of those, and this year, and first time in 20 years. But I've never been released before, so being released would be a first. Being released by a teenager, that would also be a first. So hey, I'm open to everything, and I find the comedy in all of it. If that happens, hey, it's a great story.
It is phenomenal.
It's a great story.
Yeah, it certainly is in the NFL.
So all these reports about him being released, he's openly laughing about the Gen Z son running the team, and that's what Rodgers has done. He's poked fun at the Jets organization, and you've had NFL analysts point this out.
And he now, from the other organization's perspective, you can look and say, how much of this was really just Aaron Rodgers, and how much of this was the dysfunction of the organization that he was function? Okay,
that clip's a little quiet, but people started pointing out this dude's taking shots at the Jets organization. You got reports that the Jets don't want the guy. It became a viral story. He's joking about being released by a teenager, the Gen Z freaking son, right? But then we started getting some reports that if the Jets hire Aaron Glenn as their head coach, the Detroit Lions D coordinator, maybe Rodgers could be back in Vegas, and maybe Devontae Adams, or maybe Rodgers could be back in New York, and also Devontae Adams could be back in New York with him.
He's a salary cap or anything like that. And there is word out there, there's been leaks I've heard, that whatever they pay Aaron Glenn has made it known that he would like to keep Aaron Rodgers. And I really do believe that that's the way to go.
So Aaron Rodgers, could he be back with the New York Jets? Are they going to run it back? Because Aaron Glenn has just been named the head coach of the New York Jets, the former Detroit Lions D coordinator, and he was a Jets first-round pick in 1994. His career is coming full circle, and now he's the head coach of the New York Jets. You gotta love stories like that. Former players of the organization becoming the head coach of the team. This is very similar to Mike Vrabel, who was a player for the New England Patriots, now the head coach of the New England Patriots. And then you have Aaron Glenn getting this job with the New York Jets. And the most important thing is, what does this mean for Aaron Rodgers? When it comes to how players feel about Aaron Glenn being the new head coach of the New York Jets, you had Breece Hall and Jermaine Johnson. Before Glenn was even hired, they reposted some tweets about Aaron Glenn being the next head coach. So this is a coach that the players wanted. You love seeing that for a football team. And when you see Aaron Rodgers in his final game of maybe his career, we don't know if it's the final game of his career or not. This guy was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, it's crazy how towards the end, he really started balling out. You have to give him some credit.
Can he still play? Can he move? Can he do all the physical things? Coming into today, he had 5 touchdown passes through 17 weeks where he was under pressure on the move.
So that's, so he did really well under pressure, but I wanted to hear the quote. Greg Olson, the broadcaster, had a good quote here.
A lot of teams around the league that are taking very close note. This season, This is the best version of Aaron Rodgers we've seen all year, and I promise you, there's a lot of teams around the league that are taking very close note. Those 14.
So this is the best version of Aaron Rodgers that they saw all year. He was phenomenal down the stretch. And if the Jets don't want him, some other team's going to want this guy. There's not that many good quarterbacks out there. There's not that many quarterbacks who could play even at the below average level that Aaron Rodgers was playing while he was injured, quite frankly, in the first half of the season. So he's going to get an opportunity, and it looks like the Jets can be that opportunity. Will they let the past be the past? Will the Woody Johnson drama settle? You had Breece Hall, star running back of the Jets, retweet what Joe Namath said about Aaron Rodgers after Aaron Rodgers during the final game of the season. After watching Aaron Rodgers play today, there's no doubt he's got at least another year in him. So if he wants to, I'd love to see him stay with the Jets. He could definitely help the new GM and coach, as well as play ball. He's still throwing with accuracy and authority. And Breece Hall, the star running back, retweeted this. And you often hear people in the media diss Aaron Rodgers and try to say some of the players don't like him. Now, that may be true, but there's obviously a tendency that wants Aaron Rodgers back in New York. Now, when we're talking about the tendency that may not want Rodgers back in New York, remember, Garrett Wilson, star first-round pick wide receiver, was seeming a little upset ever since Davante Adams went over to New York and his numbers started going down. He's had a few good games here and there, and the Jets started losing. I mean, they only won, 5 games on the season. Now, Garrett Wilson did not request a trade, but if Aaron Rodgers is back, that is one of the options for how to proceed. This is according to Ian Rappaport. I mean, it doesn't get more official. That's literally NFL.com. So NFL.com is basically saying that Garrett Wilson is not happy with Aaron Rodgers and may not even be there if Rodgers comes back. So that's a problem if you're a Jets fan and you want Rodgers back, but also don't want to part ways with Garrett Wilson. So they've hired their head coach, but we can't let this report slide. Can Wilson coexist? Can Wilson coexist with Rodgers if the QB is back? What he said after a disappointing game is, I'd like to be involved, love to make an impact on the game, but people see it differently, is what Garrett Wilson said. That's out of my control. So clearly a shot, in my opinion, at Aaron Rodgers, a shot at Davante Adams being more involved in the offense. In my opinion, though, I mean, I think Garrett Wilson's great, but I still put Davante Adams above Garrett Wilson. I mean, he's older, so you're going to value Garrett Wilson more. But Davante Adams is currently better at wide receiver than Garrett Wilson, in my opinion. But this could be something to watch out for, especially if Aaron Rodgers comes back. But when Aaron Rodgers spoke at the end of his final game when he did really well, a lot of people noticed this, and it just felt like he was saying goodbye, and it felt more emotional than usual, honestly.
To be a healthy idea. I'm thankful for the guys that come to work with every single day. They make it a lot of fun. Disappointing season for sure, but it's a fun way to end the night.
We all know what time it is, so give us a sense of your process. What will you do in the coming days and coming months before you decide what it is you want to do for your next path?
I'm going to get home and relax. I'm going to clear out my head and get healthy. I got a lot of gratitude right now. I'm going to enjoy this tonight, but once I get back out west, I'm going to, take my time, and I'm not going to hold anybody up. I'm going to have conversations tomorrow with everybody here with the Jets and see what they're thinking, and then.
So he said he was going to have conversations with the Jets. We haven't had any reports since the conversation supposedly happened, which was after this game. But he did say he's going to take some time to think about what's going to happen next. Is he going to retire? If the Jets don't want him back, is he going to retire? Hopefully he doesn't go on another darkness retreat. We don't have time for him to meditate in the darkness for days for him to make his decision with the Jets.
Make a decision before it gets too late in the offseason.
Whatever you do, all the best.
I love you, Pam.
Love you back.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I just thought that was weird when Rodgers told Pam Oliver, the sideline reporter, that he loves her, gave her a hug and smiled. Rodgers doesn't usually do that, and it made a lot of people think, is this his last one? Is this his last post-game interview? Is that why he gave the hug? Is he going to hang it up? Is he going to move on with his life and get away from football? That's how it kind of felt. And Davante Adams was also asked about what he thinks is going to happen with him, especially if Aaron Rodgers retires.
Like here, or what do you think? What's next for you? Man, I have no idea.
I cannot hear shit.
Honestly, I truly have no idea.
All right, this audio, yeah. So we can't hear shit from this, but Davante Adams was asked about his future if Aaron Rodgers retires, and he says he has no idea about his future with the Jets, but that the Rodgers situation will impact it definitely. And keep in mind, for all the slander that there is out there about Aaron Rodgers, the guy, any good thing that he does doesn't get reported. So Aaron Rodgers let Jermaine Johnson borrow his private jet for free to go across the country.
And one of these charter jets. Sure. Anyway, that's what route I'm going. I was like, yeah, I'll put it together. Cool. I'm getting ready. I'm getting on the flight. I'm like, hey, by the way, you never sent me, the wire information to pay these flights. Keep in mind, these flights from coast to coast are like at least $30,000.
It's not cheap.
No, at least $30,000. Aaron goes, I have the text. I'm not going to read word for word. Aaron basically goes, don't worry about it. And I'm getting mad because I'm like, no, I don't like people doing things for me. You know what I mean? He's like, don't worry about it. You're a great guy. You handle everything for everybody in your life. Now's the time period you have to focus on receiving help and letting that happen. He's like, let me do this for you.
So I just wanted to show that because Rodgers gets a lot of slander in the media and people slam him for being selfish and all this stuff, but you never hear about any of the positive. Dude, literally, this guy was trying to pay Rodgers to rent his private jet, and Rodgers said no. And it's like $30,000, like you just said. Rodgers said no and gave him some advice and whatnot. Like, we never hear about that, him being such a great teammate. And if you're a teammate of Rodgers, he's letting you borrow his $30,000 jet. That's just for the trip. He's letting you borrow. You pay $30,000 to use the jet. Obviously, the jet costs way more than that. Rodgers, I mean, that's a nice thing that he did. So I think players really want him back. Maybe Garrett Wilson doesn't want him back, but I think players definitely want him back. And now that Aaron Glenn is the head coach, and you had reports that Glenn wanted Rodgers back, I think he's going to sound a lot different than he did here when at the end of the game, after that post-game interview with Pam Oliver, he really did sound like he's hanging it up. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I honestly don't know, Rich. If I did, I don't know that I'd tell you. So I will say that out of respect. But truthfully, I don't know. I'm looking forward to those conversations with Woody and Christopher and Jaime and Phil and anybody else. Jets? Oh, I don't know.
All right, that was super quiet, but yeah. Doesn't know what the future is going to hold, and now it looks like the future can be Aaron Glenn and Aaron Rodgers, the two Aarons in New York figuring out, and that means that Davante Adams going back to the Jets. And I really do think that if the Jets would have had Davante at the start of week 1, obviously they would have been more successful. You need as many weapons as possible. When Tom Brady went on that bull run with the Buccaneers, when he left the Patriots to the Buccaneers, he had Godwin and Mike Evans when they were younger, Antonio Brown. He had to have 3 studs plus Rob Gronkowski. So it's like he had a star-studded, and Leonard Fournette at running back. He had a star-studded, loaded roster. Aaron Rodgers was dealing with Garrett Wilson and pretty much Lazard, and you're hoping that was going to work out? That's going to be tough, dude, for anybody. So him getting Davante, hopefully ironing out with Garrett Wilson, and then you have Aaron Glenn involved. I think that could be really successful for the New York Jets. So we'll see what happens there. As Aaron Rodgers isn't not done yet, and I really want to see this guy. I really want to see Aaron Rodgers end his career on top. You know what I mean? I'm tired of Brady being the most glorified quarterback. Aaron Rodgers has always been my favorite over Brady, and hopefully he gets one more shot. I think injuries were a big issue. Obviously, it ruined the first year. Then he had to acclimate after taking a year off football. That's going to be hard for anybody. So hopefully that happens. Wow. So Aaron Glenn. Him is a Jets first round pick. Okay, that is the music that will get me in trouble. Definitely. Shout out to everybody hanging out in the chat right now. What's cracking? We got some more stories that we got to break down, man. Definitely. Before I get into my favorite story of the day, we will be talking about something else that's pretty interesting. But let me just take a look at some things. And chat, I want to see the chat get loud. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Get those likes up. I have not asked for a like once during this stream. I have been just a super cool, honest guy who is like, you know what? I'm not going to sit around begging for likes. I'm not going to sit around wasting time demanding my audience take this detour. No, I've been like, you know what? I'm going to be so honest. I'm going to just go straight to content and whatnot. So I guess hit the like button now. That is the weirdest plea for likes that we have seen in a long time. But we got some more stuff to break down. Some stories that I think you guys will find fascinating. But before we get into it, man, there's a lot. I just got to set up some stuff. So shout out to a lot of people. Is Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is set to be a free agent in 2025. He's not going to be under contract for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So if you do want to hit up a Russell Wilson, that is a possibility. Let's see some stuff. Ooh, okay.
As sports like none.
Oh, Mahomes did an interview today. Uh-oh. How am I going to find this? Mahomes. Man. So who do you guys, okay, not who do you want to win? Who do you for reals think is winning this week between Bills and Chiefs? I want the Bills to win, but I believe the Chiefs are winning it. I really want the Bills to win, but in my opinion, Chiefs are winning it. There's nothing we could do about that, in my opinion. Let me just find some stuff. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we'll talk about this and let's pull this thing up. And by the way, we're going to be going live for another hour, Roni, baby. So don't you leave. All these son of a bitches leaving are going to miss the best part. And I'm not here to toe dance to keep your attention every freaking second. I'm a human being. Do not give a shit. But trust me, you are going to be missing out big time, baby. Big time. Okay. Let me find okay. Let's talk about our favorite story. All right, let's go into it. So, the Kansas City Chiefs have faced a lot of flack over this past week for some of the flags that have been benefiting them in this matchup against the Houston Texans. Really, the flags that have been benefiting the Chiefs for this entire season and for the past few years. Now, anytime a team is successful, it's heavily scrutinized, but there's been several times that NFL stars have come out and criticized the Chiefs in officiating. Rob Gronkowski was asked on the Kay Adams show about this. You had multiple people asked about this. So let's take a look at all the NFL stars who've called out the officiating with the Kansas City Chiefs, and also what Patrick Mahomes had to say this week about some of the favorable calls the Chiefs have been getting. Here's Rob Gronkowski talking about how the Chiefs get more calls than the Patriots dynasty.
He held me 4 times in one play, and then Tom threw the
Do the Chiefs get calls? Do they get better calls than the Patriots got?
I would say so. I mean, I didn't really get calls. I mean, I was double teamed. I was basically executed off the line of scrimmage half the time and 5 yards into the route. And then they would call pass interference. I finally flipped out because that was mean to do that. Calls at all. So, yeah, the Chiefs get way more calls than the Patriots. I mean, I don't even frustrated by not getting any single calls at all. So, yeah, the Chiefs get way more calls than the Patriots. I mean, I don't even remember getting calls.
Really?
I mean, specifically for myself, I didn't get any calls. Maybe as a team, I don't know. I don't remember those calls. But
Yeah,
specifically...
you don't think
And Mahomes faced a lot of flag against the Texans because he had this flop. It was a fake flop where he clearly was trying to get the flag on purpose.
Bounds. He slows down.
He slowed down and then he purposely goes and falls. This is something that a lot of people started to point out on social media, the flop. And Mahomes was asked about this and said, the one that everybody's talking about where I fell down, I was just trying to get out of the way of getting smoked by the defensive lineman. So I'll keep doing that and not take those hits because that's a smart way to stay in the football game. But he got a lot of flags that benefited him, mainly the roughing the passer call on Will Anderson. This benefited them tremendously. And really, it didn't feel like there's anything Will Anderson could have done. How is he even supposed to see Mahomes release the football? How is he supposed to even know where it's at? He's already lunging towards him, but that was a fresh set of downs for the Kansas City Chiefs. So you had Texans players say that they knew it was going to be us versus everybody and us versus the refs. Texan players after the game pretty much openly admitted that they knew it was going to be a tough matchup when it comes to officiating, making it sound like this is just a common thing you have to deal with. But Mahomes, when it comes to the flop, said, he admitted finally, I would say the only one I felt like I probably did too much was the one on the sideline where I didn't get the flag. The ref saw it and didn't throw the flag. I understood it immediately and know that I probably shouldn't have done that. Knows that he probably shouldn't have done that on a local interview after that Texans game, saying I probably shouldn't have done that when it comes to flopping, trying to get the flag on purpose. And maybe it's because he knows he will get these flags. You had this one happen too in the Texans game where Mahomes slid late. You even had Troy Aikman, the broadcaster, criticize this. And Mahomes slid late, which is kind of unfair to the defenders because how are they supposed to know he's giving himself up? What if he tries to truck them, which he has done before? What are these defenders supposed to do? It's like they can't even play defense.
And then slide down. They're going to throw a flag on.
And they threw a flag, fresh set it down. So this is only supposed to be like what? This is supposed to be a 4-yard gain, and it turns into a first down and 15 yards. All because, and these Texans players are just outraged, and they didn't even hit Mahomes. When you see the replay, these Texans players hit each other in the head. But because he slides late, there's nothing they can do.
And then slide down.
And what if he was supposed to stay up? What are they supposed to do? Let him break a tackle, let him continue to score. So that was kind of BS for them. Now, I will say, I think the Chiefs are still a good team, and I think they would win 90% of their games, even if they didn't get these beneficial flags. But this just makes people feel suspicious. And yeah, like it makes people think, is something up? Especially when you see, like we all saw, especially when you see Caitlin Clark and Taylor Swift at the game together in the skybox and the broadcast is showing this. It just makes it feel like, all right, clearly there's one team that has all the celebrities and is in line to win this game. But Mahomes actually confesses that he should not have tried to flop to get that flag. But what's funny is when it comes to the Chiefs getting all these beneficial calls, there's a lot of people that we don't talk about who have said some things. Skip Bayless recently accused the NFL of fixing this so that Taylor Swift benefits.
Okay, nobody wants to hear this, and I don't care. I can't say this publicly, at least I'm not supposed to, because Patrick Mahomes is the best friend of Travis Kelce, who is the boyfriend of Taylor Swift. So, friend of Travis Kelce, who is the boyfriend of Taylor Swift. So, if you dare to criticize Patrick Mahomes, you risk getting canceled or even kidnapped and forced to listen to her songs every minute for a whole year or until your brain explodes. But I'm sorry, I am just going to state the truth, whether anybody out there likes it or not. This is by Patrick Mahomes, face of the NFL standards. A lot of people are already saying he's the GOAT. Okay, so let's go by GOAT standards. Patrick Mahomes is having a terrible season. A terrible season.
Yeah, he has not been doing good.
Statistically, his regular season stats this year
were
ever. All career lows across the board, including his passing yards, which fell under 4,000 for the first time in his career. He finished 8th in QBR, not bad, except pretty pathetic by at home against Houston. 16 completions in 25 attempts for a QBR of better year than, by the way, Josh Allen is. That includes losing to the Chiefs 20. So normally I'd say finally gets to be honest with you. Once again, I do not love his chances at Kansas City. A 60-man week.
So he mentioned Taylor Swift in the beginning.
Make sure makes it to New Orleans. Make sure go out.
Here we go.
The memo will go out just as it did last week. Make sure Taylor Swift makes it to New Orleans for the Super Bowl. Without her, the NFL loses millions and millions of viewers who will tune in mostly to see what she's wearing up in that Superdome luxury box.
The girls love her.
So Mahomes, teetering though he might, must be propped up, must be protected by the referees, just the way he was Saturday at home against the Texans. Mahomes and the Chiefs benefited hugely from 2 15-yard penalties that refueled 2 big drives. 2 bogus flags drawn by Mahomes, who can now outflop LeBron. Will Anderson, best player on the Texans defense, he did pull up before he...
So he's basically saying what we're all thinking out loud, which is, hey, how could we expect the NFL? I mean, why wouldn't the NFL rig it for the Chiefs? Why wouldn't the NFL give flags that help out the Chiefs if it means that they make a shitload more money? And why wouldn't all the NFL owners be cool with that? People act like, well, the other NFL owners want to win. The NFL owners don't give a shit about winning. The NFL owners only care about making money. Tons of NFL owners know their team is never going to be in it, never going to compete for a championship. But they know they want to have a competitive team, make splash moves to get their fan base excited, to get high ratings and get people to buy merch and show up to the game. Some of them know deep down, obviously, we're not going to be able to compete against the Bills, the Eagles, the Chiefs, right? But they say, hey, how can we make the most money? Taylor Swift makes the NFL the most money. Taylor Swift builds up ratings. Would the Chiefs still be winning a lot of these games anyways? Yes, but I think they should own the fact that the officials have been helping them. I would like to see them be humble about that and openly state that, hey, you know what? We don't control the refs, but at the end of the day, yeah, I think the game should be officiated fairly. Nick Bolton, linebacker of the Chiefs, apparently, maybe, this could be fake, is saying that NFL Twitter is basically against Mahomes, claiming that every dirty hit is clean. Now, there's, like we said, there's been tons of people who've called out officiating that benefits the Chiefs. I think this is the craziest Chiefs rigging. I think this is the craziest Chiefs rigging example ever. Honestly, this was, if you guys don't remember, the AFC Championship game for the 2022 season. The Bengals versus the Chiefs, and obviously the Chiefs would go on to, if I'm not mistaken, I'm blanking. Yeah, they would win the Super Bowl that year, right? Because they're about to three-peat. So they would win. I'm losing my mind. I don't even know what's going on in the NFL anymore. It's Chiefs every year, right? So Chiefs. Now this is the craziest thing, dude. Have you guys seen this? Do you guys remember this? You know what? I'll be fair. Like, I'm not trying to look like I'm like the smartest guy ever. I totally forgot about this. Totally forgot. So, yeah. Right. So here's how it goes. And in case you guys don't remember. And by the way, this dude is going to be the referee at this game, Bills versus Chiefs. And we always have to deal with that guy. So 3rd and 9, tie football game in the fourth quarter. Pretty important freaking moment, dude. And this is when the Chiefs got a do-over in the AFC Championship game and then a flag on their do-over on 3rd down. They basically had 5th down here. 3rd and 9.
You're exactly right.
3rd and 9 Chiefs.
And it's even more challenging when I just told you, when you talk about Lauren Kemp out there. Now, can they do it? Sure, but they just... Play clock. It's far easier to double team Kelsey. You don't have other guys. So you're going to see someone help on him right there as well. 3rd and 9. Bodies around him. It's caught by Kelsey, but
short,
Bell.
Right? All right. They're stopped short on 3rd and 9, right? Okay. And even Mahomes is like, all right, I'm going to go back to the sideline. Good play by the defense. 4th and 4. We're stopped on 3rd and 9. They're about to punt. They are about to punt right now. And then this dude comes out of nowhere and says the Chiefs get a do-over.
Some ways, chucking him at the line with it.
The ball was set. The play was shut down. The clock and should not have started. Please reset the 10 minutes, 24 seconds. With 10 seconds on the play clock, we will start the play clock on my signal. Game clock will start on the snap. 10:29 on the game clock. It will start on the snap. Thank you.
So this was insane. They said they accidentally ran the game clock instead of the play clock. They messed up and had a technical difficulty. And because of that, the play never actually happened. And so they had to have a do-over. And Joe Burrow was like, what?
Evan was right. That was about as high charge seeing that. Oh, look at this. They're going to go for this. They put the offense back out there. There's 10 seconds on the clock. So they said they're going to put the play clock back.
So then it's 3rd and 9. That 4-yard pass never happened.
You're on tour, but he said that the play was shut down. We may not have heard it here with the noise factor, but the play was shut down prior to that snap. The play runs completely out. And what Ron just said is we're going to reset this. We're basically having a do-over here, guys. We're going to have a 3rd down play do-over.
Zach Taylor can't believe it because there certainly didn't seem any indication, just eyeballing it here, that there was anything other than
this guy. I mean, imagine being this coach. Imagine being this coach. You're in the AFC Championship game, 10:30 to go. It's 3rd down. It's a tie football game. There's about 2 possessions for each team left, maybe, unless somebody has a really good drive, and then no, you get 1 possession. And this changed the game. And check this out. It gets even more crazy and more twisted after this.
a play in action.
Second time today. The crowd noise is way out. Now we couldn't hear because the microphone flying at Taylor.
What the hell?
Is beyond himself, and in some ways, I mean, the truth is, if you can't hear it, you can't hear it. But
he can't believe it. And check this out. Check this out.
Another opportunity. That seems like they're looking for that.
What's it
After the do-over, doing the do-over, and they get
down at the 24.
All right, you got your do-over. Who gives a shit, right? But there's a flag on the play. They get a do-over, and then boom, there is a flag on the play on the freaking
near
do-over.
midfield. You can't give him another chance. It's going to be a hold on Eli Apple. 20. He was holding downfield on Scantling.
A hold on Eli Apple. There you have it.
Hold it. Defense over 20. 5-yard penalty. Oh my goodness. This is so incredibly crazy right there.
Isn't that so bad? They failed on third down, got a do-over for pretty much no reason, failed on their do-over, but they get a holding flag on their do-over, so first down Chiefs. That, I think, was probably the craziest one we've seen recently. And look at Zach Taylor, head coach.
You can imagine how this is being received up in Cincinnati.
Bro, that is freaking bad. That to me, I think is one of the worst ones for the Chiefs. So automatic first down, and again, that's in the AFC Championship game. Jamar Chase too. After was
I feel like it was fair today.
Just about the officiating.
I wanted this. You know what I'm saying? I want to do it again. Did you feel like it was fair today? Just the way the game was called?
Not really. You know what I'm saying? I think they had, three third down, 39s, 3 in a row, actually. So.
Jamar, did you take any time?
Yeah, so 3, what he claimed is they had 3 3rd and 9s where a flag got him a first down in a row. I didn't necessarily see that, but that's what he claimed, which is super crazy. Super crazy. And remember, this went viral when Nick Bosa was asked about the Chiefs.
Does anything stand out about Taylor and?
What stands out?
Does anything
about
stand out about Taylor and Smith when you watch them on film? Taylor's, I think, leads the NFL with a ton of penalties. Anything stand out when you watch them?
They hold a lot.
Nick, when
so that's all Nick Bosa said. They hold a lot. They hold a lot. When he's talking about the Chiefs offensive linemen, and a lot of people have complained that they see them get away with holding and get away with illegal formation, things like that. Famously, and a lot of people forget about this one, against the Broncos, and this is 2021 in the Mahomes era, obviously, and Travis Kelce, he caught the pass, got 2 feet, made a football move, fumbled, but they ruled it incomplete. Catches, boom, football move, knocked out, but instead the officials said it was incomplete and not a fumble. Now, a lot of people criticize this because he made a football move. He tucked it in his little arm here, and that is considered a football move. And Mike Vrabel, the now head coach of the Patriots, at the time was the head coach of the Tennessee Titans. He responded to this viral play where it was not ruled a fumble and just posted the NFL rules. In particular, he posted this here, which is C. He secures the ball, blah, 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 secures it inbounds. He performs any act common to the game, tuck the ball away, take an additional step, or maintains control of the ball long enough to do so. Basically saying this was supposed to be a completed pass and then ruled a fumble. Mike Vrabel just made this coy comment here, calling out officiating. So Mike Vrabel is now back in the AFC with the Patriots. He's going to be calling out some more officiating for the Chiefs in the future. And my favorite one, which is former Chiefs wide receiver Tyreek Hill saying that the refs
it was a 50-50
helped the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
I saw the interview that Pat did. He was like, Sauce was grabbing him at 15 yards. Then I seen what Sauce said. I only grabbed him at 7. The receiver ran into me. It was a 50-50. When the game on the line, you got to let the players play. It's a good game. It's a good game because the Chiefs, they got saved like that last year for real though, and the Eagles in the Super Bowl for real though. If we been for real, then they come back and get saved in the Jets game. Maybe because Taylor Swift was in the building. I don't know what's going on. Hey.
So he's trying to go viral, mentioning the Taylor Swift and whatnot, but he is pointing out the fact that, hey, they got helped in that Super Bowl with the holding call against the Eagles, also got helped in a primetime Jets game. What I think is pretty crazy is you have top ESPN insiders like Don Van Natta, I always get that twisted up. He's even calling out the officiating in the Chiefs games, which I think is huge because you got a reporter of that high of caliber who gets all this inside information. He's saying the lopsided officiating threatens the integrity of the game and the quality of the product. Something must be done. Even this guy is talking about that. You had Bills D tackle Daquan Jones after the Steelers had a holding call to take away a touchdown against the Chiefs on Christmas. Daquan wrote they never call that hold. You can see that December 25th, criticizing the officiating there. That helped the Chiefs. And Raheem Morris, the head coach of the Falcons, this is in week 1. He sort of refused to answer.
On the field, they didn't see the pass interference.
He basically called out officiating without saying anything.
The pass interference will look like it was clearly pass interference on the replay.
I like my money, Lid. I like my money that Arthur Blank gives me.
For another play, you don't have to get time for that.
Yeah, you do. I'm very smart enough to be aware enough to talk about officials. They made the call or they didn't make the call. It is what it is. We had a chance to win the football game on the last play of the game.
So that was clear PI against Kyle Pitts at the end of the game. Raheem Morris basically saying, I would disagree with it, and I'm not going to say anything because I'm going to get fined. But he's basically saying he disagrees with it. Otherwise, he would say, oh, the officials made the right call. Right. But he's choosing not to say that. I like my money. And remember, dude, remember against the Bengals again this year. This was in 2024 in November. The PI call. And this is when it's a game that the Chiefs are losing. They are losing. They are currently not in field goal range. Then on a 4th down, which would have ended the game and the Bengals would have won it. Bengals had no timeouts. Chiefs still had 3, but with 38 seconds to go, you basically lose. They give the Chiefs a PI call here. The guy bumps into him.
James territory.
And that's PI. It's kind of an accurate throw. Boom.
He's there early. Yep.
I mean, he is there early, but it was just so disappointing. And you see them, like we just showed you with the Kyle Pitts, them not call that every single time. And that literally gave the freaking dub to the Chiefs against the Bengals. And this guy's livid. Watch this right here. The change of his facial expression.
It's so emotional. Your heart rate's up.
So very disappointing to see that. But you've had a lot of people call out this skewed officiating. This Texans game is just the latest example, really. So we got another story that I want to cover, and we got some other stuff too. Let me just see. Let me just see real quick. We got some more stuff on the Brady, Jets, D coordinators getting signed. All right. We got to talk about my favorite story in the world, right? Let me just see real quick. All right. Shout out to the chat, though. Shout out to everybody hanging out right now. Let's grab some more water before we get into some more stories. So I've been live for like, what, hour and 20 minutes? Whoa, we got to get hydrated, baby. Now, yeah, we got some more stuff. So the New England Patriots have made some big moves, and it really upset the wife of former head coach Gerard Mayo that her husband, Mayo, was fired from the job. She even went off on social media about this, saying it never even crossed our minds to tell the truth, but I couldn't even fathom all the lies we've read that are being told to save face. What happened to class? We've been taking the high road and letting everyone do their thing since Sunday, but playing with someone's name won't be tolerated. I bet the fake stories will stop before the real ones start. So, Gerard Mayo, former Patriots head coach's wife, sounding off on social media after he was fired, and the Patriots hired Mike Vrabel to be their head coach. The big question was, who's going to be their offensive coordinator? And now, our favorite and maybe the most notorious head coach in the entire NFL is officially back. Josh McDaniels is back coaching in the NFL after being fired in November on Halloween, actually. So after being fired on Halloween by the Las Vegas Raiders and Raiders owner Mark Davis in his second season as the Raiders head coach. Josh McDaniels was the head coach with the Denver Broncos, got into some trouble trading away the franchise. Tons of stories out there of people in their experience with Josh McDaniels, even as the Patriots offensive coordinator, and how they did not like the guy. So many people have come out and told some negative stories about Josh McDaniels. Jesse Hawley slammed him on his show when Josh McDaniels was fired by the Raiders.
And one thing about me is I stand on the principle of respect. I don't care what position you're in. Everyone deserves a level of respect. And Josh McDaniels is one of those people who are just bad humans, who doesn't respect everybody, who doesn't treat everybody. You don't have to treat me like a star. I'm not a star. You gotta tell me I know that. But I'm a man. And when you begin to treat me less than a man, I'll hate you. And so while it's personal for me when it comes to Josh McDaniels, on many different occasions during my time in New England, in front of other men, Josh McDaniels would tell me to shut up. Like, shut up. I'm like, who are you talking to? Like, many times, shout out to my guy, Matthew Slater, who is a veteran in New England, has been there forever. Matt Slater will be in the Patriots Ring of Honor. And there were many times that Matthew Slater had to kind of talk me off the ledge because I was ready to go at him. And just a constant, and if you know me, if there's any of
that was so crazy about Josh McDaniels is, we heard about the Denver Broncos experience. We thought the Raiders experience would be different. It was not different. He got rid of Derek Carr for Jimmy Garoppolo. That was a big time failure, and he alienated people in the locker room. You had multiple reports come out of players being unhappy with the guy, and then you had people like Holly here come out and share their experience of Josh McDaniels after he was fired with the Raiders. And it was so crazy to see how so many people have a bad opinion of this guy, cannot stand the guy, and have clear stories that they could recount off the top of their head about how he was a complete disaster. And you have him saying that he literally had to be refrained from wanting to fight Josh McDaniels because he was so rude to him while he was the offensive coordinator at New England. And now Josh McDaniels is back, now going to be the offensive coordinator at New England with the Patriots again.
Mike Vrabel, he could be named the next Patriots head coach at any point this weekend. He interviewed in person in Boston Thursday as the Crafts worked quickly to get him in town. Now, Aaron Glenn even turned down an interview because he believed the job is Vrabel's. If and when this happens, look for Vrabel to potentially bring Josh McDaniels back there as his offensive coordinator.
So this Josh McDaniels going back to New England as their offensive coordinator was floated around right before even Mike Vrabel took the head coaching job.
The pro is that he's a good coach. He is a proven commodity, good coach, and will not make some of the unforced errors or self-inflicted wounds that Gerard Mayo did. The cons, I would say, are twofold. Number one, it feels like the second year in a row where the Patriots kind of predetermined. This year, predetermining on offense with whoever Vrabel hires as the coordinator, well, then there's some concerns that they would get hired as a head coach elsewhere, which is why Josh McDaniels makes a lot of sense, because I don't think anybody's going to hire Josh McDaniels a third time to be a head coach. So that would be the perfect OC hire for Vrabel.
So this was floated around out there. Offensive coordinator is going to be important for the New England Patriots. And then you had it. Josh McDaniels hired as the offensive coordinator of the Patriots, back for his third stint with the organization. Josh McDaniels is back in the NFL. And like that analyst was mentioning earlier, the fact that he's already failed in 2 destinations as a head coach, cancer in the locker room in both situations, bad personnel decisions, especially when it comes to quarterback, he is not going to be poached by another team. So you got a guy who was successful as an offensive coordinator. You got to give him that, even without Tom Brady. Josh McDaniels did a great job with Mac Jones, gave Mac Jones that Pro Bowl season. Mac Jones had an amazing rookie year with Josh McDaniels and completely declined when McDaniels left to be the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. Even with Cam Newton at quarterback with the Patriots, McDaniels found a way to utilize him when he was there. And obviously he had tons of success with Tom Brady. As a head coach, he's a complete disaster, but as a coordinator, he's successful. So Mike Vrabel may have made a good hire here, grabbing Josh McDaniels as the offensive coordinator. But Will some of this still pop up? Some of the negative stories that we've heard that happened when he was the offensive coordinator of the Patriots. Is Drake May going to be able to deal with Josh McDaniels? Josh McDaniels is going to be coming after his ass. That is some of the complaints we heard with the Raiders, is that Josh McDaniels likes to keep players for longer hours, and they did not notice substantially better results once Josh McDaniels kept them for longer hours. Shout out to John Raider Snake. If McDumbass can return for the third time, John Gruden surely can get a third stint. Just saying. Well, John Gruden would want a third stint as a head coach. Luckily, Josh McDaniels is only getting the coordinator job. But keep in mind, when Josh McDaniels was the offensive coordinator for the Patriots before getting the Raiders head coaching job, he was in line to have the Patriots head coaching job. He was supposed to take over for Bill Belichick. It was all configured. He was, at the time before taking the Raiders job, the highest paid offensive coordinator in the entire NFL. Part of the reason was because he was supposed to be part of the succession plan for Bill Belichick. But then Belichick decided to hold on to the job. McDaniels decided to leave and get the bag with the Raiders. He's still getting paid at roughly $10 million a year with the Raiders. From what I gather, his salary with the Patriots as offensive coordinator will be about $3 to $4 million a year. That could possibly offset how much the Raiders have to pay him, but the Raiders are still going to be paying the majority of Josh McDaniels' salary. But at the end of the day, he was a good coordinator, and he was supposed to take over for the Patriots, didn't end up doing that, and now he's back in New England. I think Mike Vrabel needs to watch out. Josh McDaniels and Mike Vrabel apparently have the same length of contracts in New England. If the team does not do well, Mike Vrabel is going to take all the blame. And trust me, Robert Kraft is probably itching to move on. If anything negative happens, would probably quickly move to fire Mike Vrabel and replace him with Josh McDaniels as the head coach, like he was supposed to be the succession plan to Bill Belichick. I could totally see that happen. And really, maybe McDaniels should have never left New England. If he would have waited just 2 more seasons, then he would have been the Patriots head coach rather than having that 2-year detour with the Raiders and really destroying his reputation. It really destroyed his reputation because of how bad of a disaster it was. And you just had so many people railing against the guy and recounting stories about how he was.
I've never been a soft dude about nothing. You can coach me hard. You can push me hard. You can even kind of, you can challenge me. You can sometimes even make me an example if it meant that it was going to help the betterment of the group. Can't disrespect me. And I don't think Josh McDaniels took advantage of that. Not just me, other people as well. And this is why everywhere he goes, he doesn't have a good locker room. Everywhere he goes, you never hear players talk about him in a very high regard, unless they're just like him. Unless they're a-holes just like him. Every place that he's been, the locker room has been a bad locker room. Check his stats. Has been a fractured locker room. Every team that he has led, there has been a fractured locker room because his leadership stinks. It's to keep belittling the men. Well, as a head coach, not as an OC, well, they get paid a lot. Josh McDaniels.
This guy hates him.
Because I've come on this program many times, and I've told you that I will never, ever pick a team. McDaniels should have never had another head coaching job in the National Football League. He shouldn't have had the first one he got, but he did. I get all right, first time. You Belichick disciple, you maybe think that thing. No. He bombed in Denver. He ran back to daddy. And then he got another job. Y'all should have kept Rich Bisaccia. Took that team to the playoffs. But you went and you got Josh McDaniels. What did he do? Destroyed another franchise. I hope and pray that he never gets an opportunity to be a head coach in the National Football League again. I'm not saying that he can't feed his family. He should never lead the team again. Josh McDaniels, and this is why it's personal for me. I told you guys I spent a small amount of time. I had a cup of coffee. I don't care what position you're in. And Josh McDaniels is one of those people who are just, well, Jimmy, check this.
Yeah, so really intense. Shout out to Jonathan Ilardi. Not surprised on Ben Johnson. Who would coach our team with no QB or ability to draft one? Do you think Pete Carroll pivot to Dion and Gruden or none of them? I would want Gruden, but Brady and Mark Davis clearly don't want John Gruden. They could do it if they want. But if you're somebody who wants John Gruden, Mark Davis and Tom Brady aren't going to allow that to happen. So it's I've essentially given up on him joining the Raiders. I mean, Gruden may join another NFL team. I think maybe the Jaguars or the Saints could be a destination. I think the Saints probably more likely. But Mark Davis and Tom Brady don't want John Gruden a part of the Raiders. They would make it happen. So it's not going to happen. I would say Pete Carroll if they can't get anybody else. I would say that's likely. That would probably be where I'd sit now, or maybe Todd Monken. I don't know, but the Raiders put a lot of chips in the Ben Johnson basket, and it doesn't seem like it's going to happen now. But shout out to Jonathan Alardi. Shout out to John Raider Snake too as well that we talked about earlier. 2 Johns in a row sending some love to the show. Both itching for John Gruden. And look, I want Gruden more than anybody, but I don't. Mark Davis and Tom Brady, they don't want him. They don't want him. I don't know. They must have a great plan. I mean, the plan was Antonio Pierce. That didn't work out. The plan was then Ben Johnson. That's not working out. Maybe they'll choose a 74-year-old instead of Gruden. But I really do believe, though, and I haven't talked about this because I'm not entirely sure. Now that the Jets have Aaron Glenn, unless Mike McCarthy gets the Saints job, which he may not, he may get the Jacksonville Jaguars job instead. I really do think the Saints will get John Gruden. I think if there's any team he'll go to, it'll be the New Orleans Saints. And it's not just because of the car thing. It's other stuff too. But that could be a big one. But that is the breaking news, though. That happened. On Tuesday, Josh McDaniels hired as the offensive coordinator. It's official. First job since being let go. We'll see what he could do with Drake May. Will they bring back Mac Jones? Mac Jones is a backup for the Jacksonville Jaguars. If Drake May gets injured, I think he'd be a great person to have behind. Mac Jones would be great to have behind. This is such a hilarious, the upside down Raiders beanie, famous picture. But Mac Jones would be great to have behind Drake May if you're a Patriots fan. Maybe Mike Vrabel could keep the locker room together while Josh McDaniels just stays in his role as offensive coordinator. Or maybe he'll ruin Drake May. Maybe he'll want to have some, be too much of a hard ass for Drake May. That's not going to work out either. And then boom, that ends up becoming a disaster. I don't think so, though. I think he's going to come back a little bit more humbled than how he was with the Raiders and the Broncos. So crazy to see, though, that this guy, it's like he should have never left New England in any of these circumstances. He was always going to go back to New England. He's had these detours where he's hey, give him some credit. He knows how to get paid by teams where the players in the franchise end up hating him, the fans hate him, and he ends up getting kicked to the curb. He knows how to keep getting these jobs. This dude knows how to get a job for sure. He was never fired or removed from his position as Patriots offensive coordinator. He earned head coaching jobs because he was good as a play caller. And look, give him credit with the Mac Jones, with the Tom Brady, with the Matt Castle, with the even the Cam Newton. He was able to figure out how to get some jobs. Fans, what was that time when the fans were yelling at McDaniels at the Chargers game? There's this one that we've all seen before, but not only do players not like this guy, but the fans turned on him too, both in Denver and in Vegas, yelling at Mark Davis to fire him. Yelling at Mark Davis to fire Josh McDaniels. I mean, come on, man. He can't make the decision while he's watching the game. He's got to wait till a little bit after. And the greatest thing ever was when once McDaniels got fired and the leaks started coming out about how he was with the Broncos. And then our favorite quote is when he said that he knows how to make a high school QB an all-pro. So don't worry about the quarterback situation. I know how to make a high school QB an all-pro. Let's hope that he can make Drake May into a good starting quarterback here. Whew. Genius Josh is back. Dude, how come he is so bad as a head coach but a great play caller? Some of his horrible L's as a where did that shit go? He's got some of his horrible L's as a Raider. Lost to undrafted Division II rookie QB Tyson Bagent. Lost to high school coach Jeff Saturday. Remember that. Lost to Baker Mayfield, who had no prep time with the Rams. Blew a 21-point lead to Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. And I believe that was when they had Cliff Kingsbury. Complete disaster. Genius Josh is back in the NFL. Who would have thought? The mother effer is back. But they've been talking about him joining the Patriots for a long time in the Vrabel era.
You have to go through the process. Usually influence makes an awful lot of sense. It would be logical. He's in the Foxborough area. But I think Mike Vrabel has got to hear from a lot of different people.
Got it. Tennessee, Artie Smith actually head coaching
in Minnesota.
Workout, and Artie Smith getting head coaching interviews, I do believe. Josh McDaniels, obviously a possibility because of the history, especially up there in that whole thing.
Yeah, Josh McCown's been linked because of...
Oh, you think Josh McCown high?
Franchise quarterback. Amen. It's a critical hire.
But now we know it's the Josh McDaniels era in New England. Now, will he take over if Vrabel needs to watch his step? Josh McDaniels is going to be lurking in the background. He'll snipe that job if anything negative happens from Mike Vrabel. I truly believe it. Truly believe it. Shout out to everybody hanging out right now, man. I think I grew some more gray hairs during this live stream. Let's talk to the chat some more. Willie, did you see that Carr was the highest rated Saints player per PFF? Blah, blah, blah. Appreciate you, Tome Reader. And I did see that. And I believe I retweeted it on Twitter, which was because Saints fans like just always dog on this guy because they want to blame him for everything. They don't want to admit. Here's what Saints fans don't want to admit. They don't want to admit that they had a couple of good years with Sean Payton and Drew Brees, but most of the time it was mid. And all of the best players that they love who are on their team and have been on their team in the Derek Carr era are below average or average at best players who would not be starters on other football teams, and they would not be making nearly as much money. And I'll call it. I'm talking Cam Jordan. Clearly Michael Thomas, not that great. The offensive line, I would even go and say Eric McCoy. Hasn't been healthy, not as impressive as I thought. I would go a step further and say the guards have been a problem over the past few years. I think the wide receivers on the Saints are severely overrated by their fan base. Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave, they do have speed, but really not much other than that we've seen. We've seen a couple good contested catches from Chris Olave, but they haven't shown to have that dominance that Saints fans think they have. Defensive side of the football, I mean, I can't name one good defensive lineman who I think would be like a blue chip player on any NFL team. Chase Young was their best guy, and he's a free agent. I do like Demario Davis at linebacker, but I think he's getting up there in age. Definitely is not going to be having the speed and wouldn't command the type of contract, I believe, on other football teams. And now here you have it, Derek Carr rated the highest graded Saint. And PFF does not like Carr. PFF usually has negative things to say about Carr, usually gives him low grades. With the Raiders, that happened. And there you have it, Derek Carr, the highest graded Saints player. And I just said best player on the team. I mean, okay, the best player on the Saints team, if it's not Demario Davis, and I think Demario Davis, like I said, is a little too getting up there in age for his position. And I think in the NFL, it's easy to find a good value linebacker. Shout out to Jonathan. McDumbass technically had a better winning percentage than Thong Boy. Agree, Gruden gone. I love to hate our team. It's ironic. Our fates are in the hands of the QB that beat us in the snow. Yeah. Raiders' fate is tied towards the Tuck Rule guy. Can he save the franchise? But McDaniels, I believe, had a better roster than Antonio Pierce. Look, if Antonio Pierce would have had Carr and Adams and Chandler Jones and Crosby healthy a full season, and even though Chandler Jones went off the rails, I do think Antonio Pierce would have done way better. this season. People want to talk up Aiden O'Connell like Carr's way better than Aiden O'Connell. So Pierce was kind of shit out of luck. Barstow Walker, it only popped up for a little bit, but Barstow says if McDumbass uses play action with New England's QB, we'll confirm he was told by NFL to sabotage Carr in our season. That was a crazy stat that they had like the lowest percentage of play action among any team in the NFL. And all the people who bagged on Carr were just trying to act like it wasn't that big of a deal, blah, blah, blah. But it was a huge deal. And even seen this season when the Saints and Carr were doing well, they were doing a lot of play action when the run game was going with, Alvin Kamara there and the Clint Kubiak being their offensive coordinator. So, look, some QBs are really good at it, and you want to utilize that skill, and it was kind of odd that they didn't do that. But I think, I do think Josh McDaniels is going to do well as offensive coordinator with the Patriots. It's going to be funny. It's going to be the same shit we've seen. He took the Broncos job, sucked, got popped for Spygate, still sucked, and then goes back to the Patriots, amazing coordinator, goes to the Raiders, it sucks. He's going to go back to the Patriots, be an amazing coordinator. That's exactly what's going to happen. But yeah, Derek Carr, best player on the team, and I like reading replies. Somebody got butthurt. No, Alvin Kamara is the best player on the team. Dude, running back, I don't know. Laugh emojis by a Saints fan. No playoff wins, blah, blah. Jaden Daniels has 2 on the road as a rookie. Did Jaden Daniels win 2 playoff games or just 1? Oh, yeah, they beat the Bucks and the Lions. Commanders are a good team. And then, you see the replies on PFF. I mean, this went semi-viral. Here comes Saints fans hating Derek Carr. It's like they don't realize he gives us the best chance to win. Actively rooting against your own team to lose is weird. So you got some Saints fans defending Carr here. And people are talking about the playoff appearance, no Super Bowl. It's like, dude, he's been on the Raiders, bro. Like I'm a Raiders fan, and it's like, yeah, he's been on the Raiders. Like, what do you, and he's been in the same division as Andy Reid and Mahomes, like the entire time. And even when it wasn't Mahomes, it was Andy Reid and Alex Smith, and they were still winning. So it's like, what was he supposed to do? He's just the QB. They don't like him because he's not clutch. He hasn't had a magical drive to win the game. I think he has had some magical drives to, he did it against the Falcons with tons of injuries and our interim head coach just recently. And even against the Falcons and the Eagles, he did win lead some game-winning drives, but then the defense choked at the end. Had to see Saints fans wallow in their tears as they face those mean facts again. And Derek Carr recently said he's not taking a pay cut because for some reason some Saints reporters floated out the idea of him taking a pay cut, which is like, no player is ever going to take a pay cut. When the fuck does that ever happen? That never happens where you just reduce your salary willy-nilly. Like, unless you're best friends with the owner. Like, Brady was great friends with Robert Kraft. Unless you have something like that, where he's probably getting paid in some other way too. Like, why would you do that? I wouldn't take a pay cut. I wouldn't do that, especially with what I put on tape. Would I restructure? Absolutely. Let me see the actual thing. I think they have it here. Did they record the Derek Carr? Oh, yeah. Where's the part about the pay cut?
At times. And
shout out to Jonathan. I forgot about Chandler Jones. Bill Belichick. Bill to the Raiders, and I'm not gay. Deep cut. Shout out to you, Jonathan. And yes, we need to bring back Bill Belichick. Oh, man. There's a couple of Chandler Jones songs that he did that were actually pretty good. I was trying to find them. They're not even on the internet. But some of them that he was freestyling were actually pretty good.
We'll see what happens.
You mentioned that the feelings are mutual. Does that, like, how does that feel like us going into the offseason? Obviously, you know, an offseason can be very.
Let me see if I can find the actual part about the pay cut besides just watching this whole thing. I think it's in here.
Healthy, you know, I got to take care of myself, and then, you know, the rest after that is really out of my hands. You know, I've had great conversations with everyone in this building, with Mickey, you know, with Ms. Benson, with everybody, and we all have mutual feelings, and so my confidence level is very high in what, you know, can happen, what could happen. You know, we've shown what it could possibly be at times, and you know, the hard part is we had to deal with some stuff that we didn't get to see that full picture all the time. So we'll see. You know, a lot of that's out of our control, and, you know, and as players, you show up and give your best every day, but we'll see what happens.
You mentioned that the feelings are mutual. Does that, like, how does that feel like us going into the offseason? Obviously, you know, an offseason can be very uncertain for like a lot of people, even in this locker room.
100%, and nothing's ever promised in this game, and y'all know me, I'm positive about everything. But you know, my conversations with Mickey, with Ms. Benson, you know, with Riz and Clint and everybody, like, it's been super positive, and you know, I'll never speak for them. I'll let them speak for themselves. But you know, I feel excited about being here because I feel like we finally, not only, you know, the last. So
the gist of this, I don't think he talks about the pay cut in this thing, but the gist of this is that he feels confident they want him back
that way,
and they kind of have to. Based on
you never know, you know, what's going to happen and all those kind of things. But very proud of what we were able to put on tape. You know, the silent movie. Coach Dub always talked to me when I was, you know, 17, 18 years old. He said, "Football's all about the silent movie." What's that film say? I don't. So hopefully we get a chance to do that. And, you know, again, you never know what the future holds. You never know, you know, what's going to happen and all those kind of things. But very proud of what we were able to put on tape. You know, the silent movie. Coach Dub always talked to me when I was, you know, we'll get a chance to do that again. Just getting cleared from all the stuff. Like I still.
Yeah, so he doesn't talk about the pay cut in this one. I thought he talked about the pay cut in that one. But no. But it is hilarious to see the Saints fans flipping that he is their highest graded player. You got a lot of Raiders fans defending him. Well, wait, I thought Derek Carr sucked because he threw a couple of interceptions. Only 5 picks on the year. Oh, yeah, and by the way, they freaking, not a good look for PFF grade credibility. Dude, what if it's the truth? It's crazy that the Saints did not win a single game this year without him. That is absolutely insane. Shout out to everybody in the chat, man. Oh, I forgot to do something. Forgot to close that. Ooh, that looks way cooler when you do that. See if there's some stuff that I forgot to talk about. We did have some breaking news while we were live, which is that the Jacksonville Jaguars are parting ways with Trent Baalke, the general manager. Now, the whole thing that's been happening over the past few weeks during the head coaching search is that the Jags decided to keep Trent Baalke, and a lot of people think that Ben Johnson turned down the Jaguars job because Trent Baalke was already there as GM. Also, Buccaneers offensive coordinator Liam Cohen, people say that they believe that he may have turned down the job because they got Trent Baalke there. And if you're a head coach, wouldn't you want to choose your own GM or get a guy that you're friends with? And now that they've failed and Ben Johnson has become the head coach of the Chicago Bears, they are now pivoting and firing Trent Baalke, basically saying, sorry, we haven't been able to land a coach because we got your ass here, so we got to get rid of you. And we should have done this 2 weeks ago, but now we're kind of screwed. And so desperate for a good head coach, the Jags are, we're going to go ahead and get rid of the GM now, even though 2 head coaches have already chosen 2 different
John's first question, Shad, back to you. I know you noted that if this head coaching candidate was to say, hey, I think the medical needs to be reevaluated, the health and wellness, if they were to say, I would like to reevaluate the front office and the general manager, what would your response be?
My response would be, how would you improve it? And then if it is credible, you know, I mean, you want to do it. Okay.
So I'd actually like
to.
to.
They didn't really say anything there, but I mean, that's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy. You're firing your GM late into the head coaching search. Will that help them get somebody? maybe they have a big candidate in mind who is going to want some power there at the general manager position. And maybe somebody's going to come out of nowhere, boom, a big hot shot candidate that we least expected. That's what I'm hoping. I want to see a big hot shot candidate come out that we least expected, but seems like we have a pretty good understanding of who's interviewing where, and there's pretty much like those same 4 candidates to choose from that are left available to be a head coach of a football team, and that comes down to Robert Saleh, Vance Joseph, Ron Rivera, and Pete Carroll. Those are the 4 big candidates that we keep hearing about. Will something happen with Cliff Kingsbury? Maybe somebody's going to take a shot on him? I think that'd be quite interesting, to be honest. Let me see if there's any new things about Raiders here. No. Let me see if we got any funny stories, football funny stories that we haven't talked about yet. We know the Bears are with Caleb Williams. Nothing too funny there yet. You got some Lions fans upset that they hired Ben Johnson went to the Bears. I don't see how anybody's surprised by that. That's kind of stupid to me. No, nothing there. I don't want to show Xavier Leggett eating a squirrel again. One big thing though for us Raiders fans, Khalil Mack. I thought this was badass, man. A lot of people thought Khalil Mack was going to retire. He said he wasn't sure about his future. But Khalil Mack just said that he's going to run it back this year. He's going to be a free agent. Khalil Mack is set to be a free agent in 2025. He was with the Chargers last year on a pay cut after being there for the past few seasons. He was contemplating retirement. In the final game, he said he doesn't know what his future holds once they were knocked out of the playoffs against the Texans. But he said he will indeed play in the 2025 season. His contract's up and he's scheduled to be a free agent. Could Khalil Mack attack come back to the Raiders, baby? He's never been a Vegas Raider, only a Oakland Raider. We need to bring back the Oakland Raiders. Get either John Gruden or Jack Del Rio. I prefer John Gruden. Bring back Derek Carr. Bring back Khalil Mack. And let's go ahead and see what Seth Roberts is doing. I haven't heard Seth Roberts in a while. Let's go grab Seth Roberts, grab Hunter Renfrow, hit up Aldon Smith. He had a couple good games. Maybe he's clean now. He's taking some time off. Who else do we want to get on defense? Make a trade for Cleveland Ferrell. Let's see if we can get that right with Max Crosby. Team him back up with Max Crosby. Who else? Do we get Marshawn Lynch out of retirement? Rodney Hudson, get him out of retirement. Hit up Donald Penn. I want to see Donald Penn. Richard Seymour, I know he has a minority stake. No, we need Richard Seymour back on the defensive line. I don't care if he's almost 50 years old. I think he's in his 40s, actually. Oh, shit. But Khalil Mack, man, I wonder where he's going to go. Honestly, I'll root for him wherever he goes. Great player, great dude. And very exciting to see a D lineman still able to play at a high level later on in their career, and drafted by the Raiders in 2014. Here he is in the NFL almost 11 years later. Let's freaking go. That would be awesome if he joined the Raiders. I don't think it's going to happen, but that would be Max Crosby and Khalil Mack together. We never thought we'd have that. Can Pete Carroll? I don't know. I honestly don't want the Raiders to get Pete Carroll. To me, that just doesn't sound exciting. I mean, I'll still root for them no matter what, but a dude who's super old, not going to be here that long, got booted out of Seattle. You know, is he really like a guru too that's going to elevate a mid QB? Because we're probably going to have a mid QB. We're probably not going to be able to attract big time quarterback talent. Probably not going to be able to draft high. Would you even want to draft high in this upcoming draft? So it's going to be a little tough. It's going to be a little tough for sure. Well, we talked about a lot of things. I'm going to try to keep going live more often to cover more news stuff. So if you notice the thumbnail, I'm going to try to keep doing this where you kind of know it's like a live thing where I'm going to cover as much news as I possibly can, that whatever's going on in the NFL. And hopefully we could build this thing up and end up becoming more of an NFL news show, and also still have like the live stream elements too. And I'll be trying to think of some videos, and I have written out some documentaries that I haven't even gotten to make, just because the NFL season, it's always about what's happening right now in terms of the news. Audrey's working on her. I've seen some comments about Audrey. Audrey, she does help out with the NFL stuff, but she's working on her channel, which is doing really well. I actually edited one of her videos just yesterday. So, you know, it started out where Audrey was working for Willie as an editor and producing and doing some of these NFL vids, Raiders vids, and especially all the thumbnails. She made all those. Now Willie is working for Audrey sometimes, doing some video editing there too, in between making the NFL content. So that's what's been happening. But yeah, I think this would be a good format. And let me know if you guys enjoy us doing the lives. And if you noticed, I don't know if did any of you guys even notice my two most recent videos? How many of you watched the two most recent videos? The Caleb Williams getting pranked, and the one on the Raiders head coaching search, which I don't even remember. I don't even remember the title of that because I've just been so locked in. What, dude, that is pretty bad. Maybe I've had too many. I shouldn't have gone out for drinks the other night. Oh yeah. It was when Pac-Man Jones said the Raiders are getting Ben Johnson. So it was like a Ben Johnson to the Raiders videos. So let me know what you guys think about that. I mean, some of that is from the live, some of it's not. But I kind of like doing that. I kind of like keeping the live element. But maybe some of you guys don't like the... maybe you guys like it when I record just like my regular videos on their own and they're not partly from live streams. Let me know in the chat. I mean, I really do rely on your guys' feedback. I probably shouldn't listen to some of you because some of you are probably trolling me, but I actually do listen to the feedback. I probably shouldn't even. I've already made a documentary on Antonio Pierce, and I don't really feel like making another one. By the way, he blocked me. I don't know why he blocked me. I've never wrote to him on X or anything, but Antonio Pierce did block me. Oh, look at this. That did not age well. The savior of the Raiders. Oh, shout out to Jonathan. Rich Eisen said at the best, AP won too many games and not enough games. Won too many as interim, not enough this year. Imagine our draft for Daniels last year. Okay, so I feel mixed on this because on one level it's like, all right, yeah, I mean, Antonio Pierce is not bringing in the ratings. A lot of Raiders, I know the ratings of the Raiders, I feel like more than a lot of people, because I make videos and I know that sometimes, I mean, and you know what, I see, this is with these live streams, I tell you guys a little too much about what I think sometimes. And hey, if you're an aspiring NFL content creator, maybe I'll accidentally give you some useful advice, who knows? But I know that most of the time, like if a video doesn't do well, like about the Raiders, it's not really me. It's just like maybe people aren't that into the Raiders right now. And during McDaniels, people were like, even though people were pissed off, they wanted to know what the hell was going on with the Raiders every day. And they wanted to know, and there was always like a little controversy. And when it comes to Antonio Pierce, what I noticed, especially once we had middle of the season, people just stopped caring. People just were like, didn't really care. Like you can make a video about how the Raiders are doing bad, and after a while, people were just like, yeah, I don't really care. Like I know they're doing bad, and even when people were hyped up, oh, Antonio Pierce, you know, maybe he's going to save the Raiders. Fans, and I know the analytics because I make Raiders videos. Like fans were still not as checked in as when Josh McDaniels was hired, and even when the Josh McDaniels Jimmy G, people had some faith in that. Some Raiders fans, I feel like they had less faith in the Antonio Pierce thing just based on interest. People were just less interested. There was a little bump when he was the interim head coach and they beat the Giants, had that big win against the Chiefs. You had hella people interested. But once they didn't get a QB, and that's not all his fault. Even though the dude blocked me, like, I will still say, like, not everything was his fault. He didn't have a good setup here to succeed. Obviously, the quarterback situation was lacking. And clearly the Raiders didn't give him a decent contract, didn't invest much in the team because they knew that they were probably going to move on after a year, if not a second year. And I think he kind of knew that. Like he knows what's going on. He's not delusional, right? So I think that kind of put a damper on the season once they didn't try to get a quarterback, didn't try to trade up, probably couldn't have been able to trade up anyways. And I hear people say this like, and I do think it's true. Antonio Pierce did try to hire Cliff Kingsbury and grab Jaden Daniels. The Commanders did that instead. Super successful. But around that time, if you remember, like a lot of people wanted Cliff Kingsbury to be their offensive coordinator. He's a former head coach who did really well, and he's an offensive-minded guy. Obviously, he did well with Caleb Williams at USC too as an assistant. And Jaden Daniels, Dan Orlovsky around the draft, even before the draft, was saying that he would take Jaden Daniels over Caleb Williams. Like everybody knew Jaden Daniels was going to be taken number 2. So the thong thing did not come from me. It came from Antonio Brown. I could literally find it if I wanted to, but the thong thing did come from Antonio Brown. I was literally just showing what Antonio Brown shared. But so, okay, Antonio Pierce, does he get credit for wanting Cliff Kingsbury and Jaden Daniels? Well, I mean, everybody wanted Cliff Kingsbury and Jaden Daniels last offseason. Clearly the Commanders did. Other fans did. That's like saying, oh, yeah, this year, last year, I want Caleb Williams at QB, and I want freaking, obviously Shane Waldron was a disaster, but I want insert hot shot most desired offensive coordinator. You're like, oh, I want Josh McDaniels to be my offensive coordinator, and I want to have Drake May. Like, a lot of people want all these things. But, okay, you don't got to say main things about him. I mean, look, dude. He has the right to block people if he disagrees with things they say, if he thought they were unfair to him. Antonio Pierce has that right. So I don't want people to say mean things about him personally just because he reserved that right and decided to block me. I don't think there's any point in doing that. But I will say, does he get credit for wanting highly desired people? I guess. But ultimately, I think you need a coach who's going to want to, who has the capability of turning things around in a positive direction without many resources. And I think they were trying to see if Antonio Pierce could be that guy, and unfortunately it just didn't work out. Oh, you guys are funny. Anyways, I'm going to go live again soon. I might even go live tomorrow. We'll see. I think I might try to do like an every other day thing if we're going to be realistic. Every other day thing. I actually am going to go see the eye doctor tomorrow. My left eye has been bothering me. Hopefully I don't have any substantial issues, but going to go check out the eye doctor tomorrow. Let's hope I can still be a good video editor. But appreciate you guys, man. Subscribe, like, check out the videos. We're going to be posting more. I didn't get any feedback from anybody in the chat about my content, so maybe nobody gives a shit and it all seemed good to go. In terms of how the latest videos look compared to some of the other shit we've been doing. But let me know. I want your feedback. I actually listen. I know what you're saying. Will I end up with a Raiders eye patch? Oh my God. Get LASIK, dude. I am way too scared of lasers, Barstow. Did you get LASIK? I'm just paranoid about that. I just feel like I'm going to get something's going to go. I'm going to be the one where something goes bad. So just post. Okay. So people don't even care. They don't care if it's like edited super flashy. You guys don't even understand, dude. I am always second guessing like content and what kind of content to make. And that's part of the reason why I don't upload that much. So maybe I need to have a darkness retreat. I need to have a darkness retreat like Aaron Rodgers so I can get my mind right and start posting more freaking videos. Okay, so they're good. So some people notice that it was like not as intense as some of the other ones. Some people somebody just keeps dropping emojis of roast beef. Oh no, a cigarette and coffee. Yikes. Oh, what's not that bad is the LASIK. Okay. Don't second guess. Okay. Because the two most recent videos were way easier for me to make. If you guys didn't notice a freaking difference, then I need to start doing more shit like that just to put out some more stuff. Well, hey, breaking the fourth wall at the end of the live stream. Maybe this is what I should do every live stream. Maybe the people who give a shit about that will stay to the end. It's like, is he going to reveal his inner thoughts and insecurities? LASIK is not permanent. Okay, I can't do all that if it's not permanent. I think I'm going to go back to contacts. Let's see how I look. Oh, I don't look too haggard. Hey, what's up? I was recently blocked by a former Raiders head coach. Does that make me important? No, that's not good. I hope I didn't do anything unfair. I feel like I've been fair. I feel like I was way tougher on Josh McDaniels than I was Antonio Pierce, right? I was way, and you know, jeez, I felt like I was way worse. Okay, so I'm trying to do NFL stuff too. You guys have probably noticed. I'm trying to do NFL instead of Raiders. Like my best videos. My best video recently was the Joy Taylor Fox News allegations. That was like my best video of the month. And it was not Raiders. So I got to try to start doing more stuff like that whenever it pops up. I don't know if I want to do TikTok. I really just don't have the time for it. Like I already got YouTube going on. I would only do TikTok if I just had so much extra free time, but I don't know how that would happen. All right, since we're not making crude jokes, I guess I could put this chat a little more up. Okay, so you like the Fox News Joy Taylor thing. I feel like, honestly, dude, I wrote like a mini essay on it beforehand because it was a bunch of stuff where I was like, all right, if I'm going to do this, I want to have like the best one that really breaks down what was happening. Because I saw a couple people make some stuff and it was kind of half-ass. So I went hard at that one. But really, Joy Taylor is like kind of just the surface. Some of the other stuff in the allegations are way crazier, especially about that guy, Michael Dixon. Yeah, okay. Dude, I'm supposed to hire... Here's the thing. I want to hire editors so bad, but it's expensive. I mean, even if you get somebody cheap, like the fact that I could make it faster by myself, and if a video does poorly, then I lose money by hiring an editor. So I'm just like, dang. It's just so tricky. Hey, if any of you guys want to be an editor for cheap, you can get an internship on the Wi-Fi Willie show. You must already have experience. You got to be super cheap. I got one friend who's helped me out, but it honestly is a lot of time where he's not really interested in being a content creator, so it doesn't make sense for him to do it. But if you were interested in that, it would make sense for you to do it for cheap because you could see how it's made and stuff. But I mean, I edit all my own stuff because literally I'm just trying to save money. Oh, dude, that dude's okay. The dude who you're talking about is a multimillionaire. He could pay any editor he wants or let them take a cut. I am not a multimillionaire. I'm not even a thousandaire. All right. Well, I'm going to peace out. Peace out, man. And I'll be going live again soon. Peace out. And I'll see you on the next one and hope you have a good one.